Good morning, everyone. I'm here to give a presentation on the topic setting outcomes in teaching and learning. Well, why do we need to set outcomes? What is the importance and what is the requirement behind setting outcomes? While we enter a class, we need to have a clear concept in our mind before we deliver a lecture on a particular topic. We need to plan things accordingly, strategically, and then we need to spontaneously aim at providing a clear picture to the learners. Learning outcomes are basically the goal that we set while we try to impart learning. Predetermined goals. We can call them predetermined goals. Now, as quoted by a famous science fiction writer, one learns from books and examples only that certain things can be done. Actual learning requires that you do those things. So here, as NEP 2020 states, that we are focusing more on activity-based learning. We need to strategize our curriculum in a way wherein we need to focus more on how students learn by doing things on their own. We have shifted our focus basically from just rote learning method to experiential learning and learning by doing. As we have observed throughout the year, in our academic session, in our academic curriculum, that too many activities were conducted this year based on different ideologies, based on different principles. But what was the main objective behind conducting these activities? What were we mainly aiming at? We were basically aiming at trying to inculcate much more, I would say, inculcate the habit of experiential learning that we need to propagate amongst our students. Our students are more into rote learning method, and we need to take them out of their comfort zone so that they start implementing whatever we are trying to teach them. Because implementation is required in today's era. 21st century mainly focuses on implementation, and we have somewhere not focused on those specific areas. Now, learning outcomes are basically statements of the knowledge, skills and abilities individual students should possess and can demonstrate upon completion of a learning experience or sequence of learning experiences. Now, for example, anyone from the audience can give me a topic which you teach in class, any random topic. Just suggest a topic. English, Hindi, maths, whatsoever, from your subject area. Any topic. Okay, so when you go to teach this particular topic, what do you exactly have in mind? What do you want the student to learn after you teach this topic to them? What are the goals that you are setting for them?
One of the goals is that they will understand the topic clearly, so that they can apply this in examinations along with for the real world also, because correlated with the real world
Yes.
what are their applications that they will be clearly understood.
Okay, thank you so much, Arvind sir. Yes, basically we need to teach them how to apply these things in the real world. They shouldn't be constrained to books. They need to step out into the world, and these things should have practical approach towards life. Like, for example, during our English lessons, when we teach them recitation, why do we teach them recitation? Why do we teach them to read? Why do we inculcate the habit of reading amongst the students, or why do we teach them to write certain things, creative writing abilities? What is the main propaganda behind this. Why do we do that? Literature teachers, I can see some of the literature teachers here. So while we are teaching these things, what is our main objective behind it? What we want the students to learn from this, and how can that be implemented in real life? In the long run, how can that be helpful to the students? We basically want our students to enhance their communication skills, interpersonal skills. That is the main reason why we teach them how to recite a poetry, or why do we try to embellish their writing skills. What is the reason why we try to enhance their vocabulary? The main reason is they should be able to project their ideas and their thought process without any hesitation, and that will ultimately help them in the long run, which is extremely essential, because they have to face a world which is looking forward to judge their abilities. Whatever we teach, whichever topic we teach, we have to relate it in a way so that they can implement it and execute it in practicality. There's a practical approach to it. There has to be a practical approach to it. Now, when we enter the class, and if you're entering the class without any specific objective, without any specific goal, the student will not grasp anything. Any small topic that you teach to the child, like if you go enter the class and you want to teach them about shapes, like in mathematics we have shapes. If you want to teach them shapes, there are different types of shapes. So what do? Why are we introducing them to shapes in the first place? How can that be implemented in real life? Can anyone say who is teaching this particular subject to the students? What is the relevance of shapes in real life? How constructive it is? Because everything should be executed in the long run. The child should learn something out of it. So why are we teaching them shapes?
Practical knowledge.
Okay, yes ma'am, practical knowledge, but how can in the real world, in the outside, when they have the idea of shapes, how are they actually gonna execute it when they look at objects, different objects of different shapes? So how is it going to help them?
Ma'am, then only they can identify whether the earth is round in a shape
Exactly.
or flat.
Yes.
There are so many practical things like orange.
Yeah, like they can look around and they can look at each and every object that lies ahead of them, and then they can identify that this object is of this shape. That is how we are teaching our children. That is how we are actually supposed to teach our students, right? When we teach literature to our students, why do you think we delve so deep into concepts and the thought process of a particular character? My teachers, some of the English teachers are here, Hindi teachers are here. So when we are teaching the story, the plot, okay, why is it needed that we relate it to practical life? Why do we give them practical life examples? If we are teaching about a character, then why do we need to exaggerate on the nature of the character?
So that the stories are the mirror of society.
Exactly.
And
thank you. Yes.
Concrete examples give that improve the memorization power. That also.
Yeah, memorization is there, ma'am, but here we are not just talking about the cognitive skills. Here we are talking as to how we can implement that in real life. Okay, because there should be a motive as to why we are teaching. Now, when we teach grammar, why do we teach the technicalities to the students of a language? Any language that we are imparting, we are teaching Hindi, we are teaching English, or any subject, French. Why do we need to teach them grammar, and how can we implement that in real life? Because
they can construct sentences in that language.
yes, there should be proper constructivism, and the students should not falter while framing sentences. The framework should be appropriate. Now, moving on, what are the things we need to keep in our mind? certain things that we need to keep in our mind while we are setting certain outcomes. First is, good learning outcomes mainly emphasize the integration and application of the knowledge and skills. So that is what we were talking about. If you all are aware, this year when we conducted this awakening, what was our main intention behind that? We all tried to correlate what we teach in class through models or through live models. And what was the outcome behind it? Students understood the topics much better in each and every subject, in each and every sphere. So that basically boosted their confidence level that what we are learning is not just constricted to the books, but beyond that, this is how we can execute it. This is the outcome. This is the long-term objective. That is how we should integrate. That is the main objective basically of our integrated learning. Then moving on to, they should be specific and we should use verbs such as demonstrate, understand, discuss. Okay. So, yeah, when we are teaching a particular topic, we should not deviate while teaching any topic that we are delivering in the class. We should have a specific mindset and we should be well prepared so that while we are delivering a particular topic, we are speaking on a particular topic, the student should be able to imbibe, and at the end of the day, at the end of that 40 minutes lecture, the student should know its implementation and application. Now, since we know that NEP is focusing on student-centric learning, so it should be based on, the teacher should focus on explaining the learning outcomes that will be valuable, professional, personal, and aim at higher goals, academic future. It should have some academic future, and our students should be able to acquire much through the learning of the lesson. Practical, not inspirational. Like, can you suggest something from your subject which has practical implementation and is not just inspirational? Like, things that are coming to my mind are only stories and poetries that we basically teach in the class. But here are teachers from different subject backgrounds. So you can just suggest something, any subject, any topic that you have taught in class, and how is it not just inspirational but also has practical approach. Any teacher, any topic from science or from social science, computer.
From social science, ma'am, we can do the election procedure in the classroom to elect or select the monitors for that only the procedure, so we can show to the.
Ma'am, you have to speak about a topic which we are teaching them academically.
Yes, only academically we can give practical impact that has happened in our country, the governmental system.
Okay,
and
yes.
through the election process.
Yeah, that's right. So that's a very good example. Thank you, ma'am. So yes, that's how we can do when we are teaching them about the framework of the Constitution, how the Constitution functions. We can actually make them sit accordingly, or we can arrange the class in a way that the infrastructure can be arranged in a way so as if a parliamentary session is going on, and the students can be trained as to how things happen inside a parliament. Because if we start reaping these things into them, they would know that why a particular topic is being taught to me. Now moving on, how to write learning outcomes. So there are certain points that I came across as to why while we are drafting learning outcomes. First one says all the educational goals of the student as well as institution should be covered, and we offer a roadmap to achieve course outcomes and program outcomes based on the knowledge and skill development and can be attained via teaching learning methods. Now standard 9 students, we all are aware that they are being honed at certain skills. Their skills are being sharpened. Okay, our government, our current education system is also emphasizing on enhancing skills within students. When we were in school, role plays, theatre. I'm mainly focusing on my subject because that has been my main area of interest. There had been exhibitions at the same time, but like if we talk about student growth, student development, then when it today at that time skill was not paid more emphasis upon, but today different skills are being ingrained in the child. That's what our school is doing basically for the standard 9 students. Why do you think these skills are being imbibed within the child? Why is it essential for the child to have certain skills at an early age? How is it going to help in their overall development? Can someone say? Why are they being taught those skills? Why are those skills being instilled in them? The standard 9 teachers, any teacher can say, we all are aware that students are going for skill-based learning. They are acquiring training. So why? What is the ultimate motive behind it?
So there will be a holistic development now.
Exactly. Overall development is what we are again focusing on these days. And at the same time, in order to generate self-employment. Okay, we know, looking at the current scenario of our nation again, we know that we are the most populous nation today. And it is not possible for the government to employ each and every person who is acquiring a degree. So, government is trying to initiate and come up with new certain processes wherein it will be possible for them to start or take an initiative. They can become entrepreneurs, and that's the reason why these skills are being imbibed in them. Okay, there are certain practices which we should avoid while building learning outcomes. As in, while articulating learning outcomes, the faculty or educators must take care of the following. Do not focus on teacher-centric practices, always make the learning student-centric. Now, we as teachers, be in primary, pre-primary, okay, like in pre-primary, if we start from the foundation, from the elementary level, how do we indulge students into practices which can boost their morale, boost their confidence level, and make them more, I would say, outspoken? What kind of activities these days we are indulging the students into? If I recall, last time there was we celebrated the Navratri in our school, pre-primary students, they did it, and something happened in our school, I guess for the very first time, that students from lower kindergarten and upper kindergarten were, they were made to perform on stage, and not they have performed earlier, but they were hosts, they were anchors. Okay, so this happened for the first time, that kids of that age, they were made to host the event, which has not happened earlier in our school. So why do you think this practice happened? Why is it starting at such an early age? Because the sooner, the better. They need to be, most of us, even like at this phase of our life, we have the stage fear. Because we are not given an opportunity to stand and deliver. We only choose the best ones mostly. This child is confident, so let's just ask this child to go and speak. The students who falter, who make mistakes, we don't allow the students to make mistakes. But if we inculcate these habits from a very early age, from the elementary level, then gradually they start opening up and their confidence level is much better, and it boosts with time by the time they are in high school. But we need to create that platform for them at a very early age. So this was a practice which I actually appreciated, apart from all the activities that usually take place in our school. Okay, do not confine the learning outcomes to course or program outcomes, and do not include projects that are not aligned with the student learning outcomes. When we assign a project to a student, we have a habit of giving projects to our students. This time, we decided in Standard 11 that we will give PowerPoint PowerPoint presentation. We'll ask the students to prepare PowerPoint presentations on tenses, the topic tenses. We all are familiar with the topic tense. Okay, it's very important. We need, it helps in constructing the language and framing sentences. So we ask the students to deliver on those topics. Okay, not just prepare PowerPoint presentations, but to deliver at the same time, to present that to us. And why do you think we made them do it? So that in the long run, as we see that PowerPoint presentations basically are very important. It's becoming an essential part of not just a teaching learning process, but in any organization. They have to speak, they have to learn how to deliver themselves. They need to be smart enough to put forward their points without hesitation. So with keeping that in mind, our main motive was not to just inculcate what tenses are within them, but to enhance their confidence level, which is extremely important. Do not force students to learn the theoretical concepts for an academic score. Instead, encourage them to learn with practical experiments. Now, this is something which is a very common practice in all the educational institutions. Undeniably, we actually force the students to score higher marks, but little do we emphasize on sharpening their, I would say, critical thinking abilities. Like teachers who basically design the question paper, we are these days, what are we trying? We are trying to introduce competency-based questions. Why do you think we are doing that? Why is that changing? It's shifting. What are we trying to inculcate in the child by introducing competency-based questions? Because later in the long run, when they appear for certain competency exams, competitive exams basically, then their critical thinking ability would already have been sharpened by that time, which we need to start again in the school. We need to help, we need to channelize their, I would say, thinking abilities in a way wherein they can think better, they can, their thoughts are much more, I would say, productive, which should be the reason as to why practical experiments are required. Okay, so learning outcomes, this we've already discussed. Okay, they should be realistic. Outcomes need to be reviewed in light of students' ability, development levels, initial skill sets. Now, we as teachers of Kasidi High School, we very well understand that how can learning outcomes be based on the level of learning? How can we make them realistic? We do face challenges in the classroom while we impart learning or while we are teaching a particular topic. We basically are teaching students who have average learning capacity. We need to agree to this. I think all of us will agree as teachers that our students struggle to grasp ideas. There are very few students basically who, are very quick at learning. We need to simplify the topic. We need to make it more comprehensive, and it is then when they are actually able to understand. We just cannot get inside the classroom and cannot just spontaneously deliver on a topic with the motive that I am done, I have taught. It should be student satisfaction, it should not be teacher satisfaction. When I step outside the class, I have to ensure that each and every child, no matter whatever their level of learning is, they have understood what I tried to teach them today. Even if it is it's just a 20 minutes lecture and 20 minutes discussion. It should not be that I just enter the class and I keep speaking endlessly without allowing the child to grasp. At the same time, we need to mold ourselves in a way where our students understand what we are trying to teach them. If I am trying to discuss maps with them, I am trying to teach them about the physical features. We are trying to teach them to locate the main rivers. Okay, and while I positive. So we need to be more realistic at the same time. We should not come up with concepts and ideas which will complicate them at an early level, initial level. Okay, they should be active and observable. How can they be active? How can the learning outcomes be active? Okay, the teachers are active amongst themselves, so sorry to interrupt, but how can teaching be active? That's what I'm trying to do right now. I'm trying to activate my teachers. Tell me, we do a lot of things in the class.
Interaction.
Yes, correct. So, can you give some example? You're a very lively, vivacious teacher, Teron, and during your music lessons, what do you do basically? How do you make it more interactive and lively? Why are the students okay? In fact, good that Teron answered this question, because we have observed that our students here, they are more into creative learning than academic learning. Whenever it comes to something constructive, because our students were so active throughout the exhibition that I have not seen that level of excitement in them while we impart lessons in the class. Right? So and at the same time, the topics that I had given them, I had given some very difficult topics to the students, and they understood the topics, they learned about it on their own. I just had given them specific guidelines. Similarly, when there are cultural fests in the school or inter-school competitions, haven't you observed our kids are more actively involved? Recently, they are all active. The 11thers are all active about the farewell preparation, right? So they are happily participating in that. Whereas if we tell them to sit and deliver a lecture, sorry for that. Cut that. Is it possible?
No, no problem.
Sorry. Okay. So, if you are delivering a lecture, we see that they are more drowsy in the class and they are not participating. But if it's about a fest, right, Teron? If it's about a fest, they are more actively involved, and most of the time their attention is what is going on in the music room, or what my friends are practicing, or which song should we select. Why do you think students are more into these things? Because it is active involvement is there, right?
Their interests are taken in consideration.
Yeah, exactly. Where their interests lie. But that doesn't mean we can sing and teach in the class. It's not possible. Basically, it's not at all possible. But then how can we make the concept interesting? Have you heard about flipped classrooms? This is a practice which was implemented long back by my teachers. Flipped classroom, I don't know how much it will be successful if we try it in our schools, but it has worked to a little bit extent, because I keep trying things with students. So in flipped classroom, we basically give them an idea about the topic which we are about to teach them the other day, and we ask the students to prepare a little bit background of that topic, and then when we impart, it's more of a discussion instead of just the teacher saying and the student listening. Because even here, see, you have to be honest, you have to admit that if you're just listening to me without me questioning you time to time, you will start losing interest. So we have to ensure that my listeners, that is my students, are more actively involved. So we need to come up with something creative, at least twice a week, if at all possible. Just a 5-minute activity we can make them do, so that suddenly all their senses are active, their motor skills are also involved, and they start understanding concepts better. Okay. Okay, if we talk about this point, should address program goals and not specific course goals, since assessment at the university program is program focused. Okay, there should be a sufficient number of learning outcomes. Why do we prepare lesson plans? important for each and every teacher to prepare a lesson plan before they are going to the class to teach a particular topic? Is it important for the students or is it important for the teachers? I would say both. It gives us clarity. Okay, it gives us a certain level of clarity as to what we want to teach and how much we want to cover in this specified time frame. If we are going without that clarity, we won't be able to follow the timeline provided to us, especially because we in plus 2, we have limited time. 10 teachers engaging classes in standard 10 and 12, they would know that we have a limited time as compared to the other classes engaged by teachers, because they are still getting, we have to complete the syllabus within, I would say, 7 to 8 months. And it's a vast syllabus. So if we don't go with proper planning, okay, we don't have the outcomes in our mind set, then how would we be able to give a clear picture to the students about the things that we have in our mind? So that actually provides clarity to the student and to the teacher. Okay, it should be aligned with the program's curriculum. Okay, in the very beginning of the session, we prepare a syllabus tracker. All of us, all the teachers, we sit together for each and every class. We have a syllabus tracker. Why do we do that? What is the importance of the tracker?
So that they will complete our syllabus.
Yes, the time frame. We have the time frame in our mind, right? The time frame has to be pre-decided. Maybe we will have certain hiccups on the way, but at least more or less we will try to stick to the main agenda and we will try not to deviate from it and complete it within the stipulated time period, right? Okay. These are certain levels of performance. Level description, to know and remember specific facts, terms, concepts, principles or theories. So again, the learning outcomes are based on to make our learners understand the particular topic which we are at that point explaining. And how can we make it happen? By coming down to their level of understanding. That is what a good teacher does, right? A good teacher does not just step inside the class and just exhibit their talent of how much knowledge they possess. Of course, we are all knowledgeable. That is known to the students. We are confident about ourselves. But that confidence should be exhibited in the form of the words that we deliver in the class. We need to ensure that we are able to connect to the students and their level of understanding. Comprehension, to understand, interpret, compare, contrast, explain. If I may ask, while like in English we do have comprehension passages and in Hindi we also have that. In other subjects, how are we testing the comprehensive skills of the students? Computer teachers here.
With answer the following questions and the subjective questions which are given to students.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, word problems in mathematics. That is how we are trying to test their skills and abilities. Right? Okay. Application, to apply knowledge.
And we have given reasons for that. Why this happened, why this statement is true, why this.
Good answer, Shalini. Good.
Think and answer.
Very good. How do we implement it in our subject, in literature? High order thinking questions. Maths, and I think we have it in all subjects, high order thinking questions. Okay, and why have we introduced that in the curriculum? Because we want our students to think beyond the text. practical world, right? So application has to be taught to them, and that can only be done if we enhance their critical thinking ability. How is that possible in sports? Kinesthetic development? How can we do that? Sports teachers, if you can suggest certain things to us. What skills are we imbibing in the students? They are too active about sports, so why is it essential part of curriculum? And in the long run, how will it be helpful for them? No, I would appreciate if the sports teachers answer this question. We have some really eligible, highly educated sports teachers amongst us. So anything, ma'am, which you have observed, it doesn't have to be in the language which you are comfortable in. Please share with us. Please share. You can give an example and share.
We can teach them teamwork.
Good team building spirit, okay. And leadership qualities, if I may say. Yes, yes, please.
We can and they can take it as a skill also. They can learn how to work in a team.
Okay,
They can learn the leadership qualities.
okay.
And most important thing, they can learn the discipline in life, because sport is all about discipline.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. Okay. Wow. I think I asked the question from a correct person who usually doesn't answer or usually skips this. Okay. So moving on. Okay, these are certain points that I collected as to why or how we can implement certain learning outcomes in certain subjects. So the teachers may just take a quick look at this before I move on to other topics. This is for mainly literature and language teachers. This is for humanities and fine arts teachers. We have some fine arts teachers here. I'm missing Rupali here though. Samasar is here. I did point out that we have a teacher. Physical and biological sciences, you may just take a glance. Just few simple points as to why we need to set outcomes, what kind of outcomes we need to set. This is for mathematics and social sciences. So I've been more into literature and I've been a commerce student, so I'm not quite good at the other things. So team building spirit and a lot has been spoken of over here. Okay, why develop learning outcomes for students? By focusing on the application of knowledge and skills learned in a course and on the integration, this we've discussed, the emphasis on integration, and students understand the conditions and goals of their assessment. Why do we need to assess the students? How do we assess the students? Why and how do we assess the students?
Formative assessments like class tests or regular quizzes.
Examinations, right? That is how we assess them, assess their learning abilities, how much they have understood, isn't it? And why do we need to do that? Why is it important? Of late, we have had it a lot throughout this session. We've been testing the students a lot this year.
It is like a feedback on our teaching learning process.
Okay, but do you think it should have certain limitations or a proper strategy? Is it required that we are planning tests or examinations, we should also allow the student to process what we have taught them. Right? If we are just continuously testing the ability of the student without giving them sufficient time to grasp it, because self-reading, it's also important, right? The student has to be given enough time to read and understand the concept that we have imparted. By continuously conducting tests, I personally feel that the outcome is not too positive, because the student did not get time to read anything. Self-preparation, that's important. So I feel that yes, assessment is important. It is essential to understand whether the outcomes that we had set for the child during an academic year or for a particular period, like if we are conducting periodical assessment of 20 marks, right? So we decide a limited syllabus for them and we start teaching that to them. But then, if we are not giving them enough time, let's say we give them the syllabus 5 days ahead of the exam and we are scheduling a test. So is that enough for the child to understand, to process and then write the paper? I don't think so. The child needs to be given enough time to prepare and delve on that particular topic, and then we are supposed to test them. So there has to be a proper strategy involved at the same time. That's what I feel, and that is why learning outcomes should be developed in students. For instructors, basically instructor here, it is the teachers. It's talking about us. So allows for reflection on the course content and its potential applications, focusing on the knowledge and skills that will be most valuable to the student now and in the future. So here, if you've observed that too many times this futuristic goals is coming up, it's coming to the forefront, right? So now, earlier the scenario was different, and with basic skills, one used to, I would say, basic learning skills or basic knowledge, it was easy to grab an opportunity. But these days, you have to be multifaceted, you have to be multidimensional, right? We as teachers, I think all of us, when we were undergoing our B.Ed teaching practice, at that time, we were not aware of the changes that are about to happen in the upcoming years, and that we will have to teach a generation who are more into activity-based learning, and they appreciate active involvement into things. Because we belong to a generation where teachers used to come to the class, they used to impart their lessons, and we had to read those lessons, prepare sample papers, and just, answer the exams. But don't you think the scenario has changed drastically over the past few years, and we also had to enhance ourselves, we had to upgrade ourselves a lot, unlike what we had been trained to do during our B.Ed classes. Now the way of instructing, the way of interacting, the way of making the students perform, a lot of changes are happening these days, right? That's the reason why we are undergoing so many trainings. That's the main reason. NEP is focusing on that, isn't it? Skill-based learning. So in order to inculcate those skills in the students, we ourselves need to improve our knowledge. We cannot just stick to our previous and limited knowledge. We have to constantly upgrade ourselves, right? Institutions and administrators. I wish some of the administrators were here because this is for them. But maybe in the long run, it will be helpful for either of us. When an instructor considers the particular course or unit in the context of future coursework and the curriculum as a whole, it contributes to the development of a coherent curriculum within a decentralized institution and helps to ensure the students are prepared for future work and learning. We cannot make sudden changes in the curriculum if we are in an administrative role, because it does have an impact on the overall learning of the student. We cannot take sudden decisions if we are leading an institution, if we are heading an institution, because a lot on our decision then. In the beginning of the year, the decisions that we take should be executed throughout the year without much changes. If at all required, some minor changes can be introduced, but as an administrator, I feel that major changes should be avoided. Like for an example, during the COVID scenario, COVID was an unpredictable situation and at the same time an indispensable situation. We could not avoid it. So there were so many changes which we had to take with proper planning. But it took so much time for the administrators and the teachers to understand how we can impart learning to the student and how they grab everything that we are trying to teach them through online mode of teaching. Isn't it? Sudden planning was required, sudden execution was required. We had to learn so many things within, I would say, a time period of 1 month or 1.5 months. And we had to upgrade ourselves so quickly. So yeah, in those situations, in such situations, administrators do play an important role. Okay, if such uncalled for situations arise, but generally we should follow strictly the layout that we are planning in the beginning of the session, that we have planned with our teachers, and we should avoid introducing sudden changes in that plan because that disturbs the flow of the curriculum that we have designed and the activities that we have planned. That's what I feel basically, that's just my perspective. Okay, certain characteristics. Effective learning outcomes should have clear statements containing a verb and an object of the verb of what students are expected to know or do. Action oriented. See, this word is coming again and again. This is quite repetitive, but then this is what we are basically supposed to focus on. Action oriented learning. Action oriented doesn't mean the teacher has to perform an action in the class. We have to engage the student into some kind of activity. And trust me teachers, I have done that. I always do that in my classes. I teach a particular topic to them, a story or whatsoever, and I don't provide everything to the students. Instead, in the class, I give them 5 questions and I ask them to find the answers there itself so that they don't have to carry it home. And that is how, what happens is they read the chapter in the class itself, they know the answers to the questions, and their abilities, how much they have understood the lesson, I understand through their speed of answering the questions, framing the questions. So, and then if I'm teaching a drama, so I tell them that, okay, I'm giving you 5 to 10 minutes, just quickly prepare this and present it over here. And that is how they understand the chapter better, they understand the characters better. So these kind of practices can happen, if at all possible, through a little bit of proper planning. Okay, that is why we need to set outcomes. Learner-centered, like we said, NEP is focusing on student-centric learning, clearly aligned with the course goals. What do you understand by aligned with the course goals? Which course goals are we talking about? Science teachers, if someone can say, hi Malki, you're too quiet today. Anyways. Obro, physics, any topic? You are a versatile teacher. You've been into YouTube and all. So why are you into those things? Why are you introducing this? Is it just to hone your skills? For whom are you doing it? We are talking about clearly aligned with the goals. Of late, I followed some of your videos, although I'm not a science student, but I must admit that the way you have simply explained the concepts, they are clearly aligned with the syllabus. So that's really appreciable, the way you're doing it. And I think these kind of practices are a little difficult because for that we need to step out of our comfort zone and we need to make videos, but then in the long run, it is so useful for the learners and for us as well. You know why for us? Because we can dwell on those topics if we are stuck, and we can also share it with our students, which will clarify their concepts. Okay, this we have discussed already, appropriate for the level of the learner. This also we did discuss. Okay, so here we are almost towards the end of what we have discussed now. So why do you think is setting learning outcomes important for the teacher and the learner? Just a simple question. It's a very simple question, teachers. Shreya, I would appreciate if Mario answers this question. Hi Mario. Good morning. Yes, please. Yes, Mario. Why do we need to set outcomes? Why is it essential for the teacher and the learner? Basically what I just discussed. Yes, Obro sir, please. The camera should be towards Mario sir. Yes, Mario sir.
Because it helps the teacher as well as the student to know what have they learned, and the teacher needs to know whether the child is clear with the topic or not.
Okay, thank you so much. I would now ask Pravish sir a simple question. What is the difference between learning objective and learning outcome? I know I have not brought this up, but as teachers we should know this thing. There's a just thin line of difference. It's okay, you can sit and answer, I guess. It's visible. What is an objective and what is the outcome?
Outcome is the result,
Yes?
and objective is what we want to do with the students. What is the objective?
The motive with which we enter the class, right? That's the objective, that today I will teach present tense to the child. And the outcome would be if the child learns what present tense is and how to implement it, execute it in through sentences. Simple. So I said there's a thin line of difference. Okay? So any queries? I had an interesting audience. Listener? Okay, so thank you so much for being a patient listener. Okay, I hope I could engage you all. Thank you so much.
कैसे बोलते रहते